Assalamu alaikum, dear students. So last time we had studied what's van der Waals force. Then we classified van der Waals forces, and in the classification we have already read what are London forces, characteristics, and the molecules possessing van der Waals forces. Now today we will study the second type of van der Waals force, that is dipole-dipole interactions. As far as the name is concerned, this name itself is self-explanatory. Dipole-dipole interactions. That means dipole of one molecule, it interacts. It must go interaction with the dipole of another molecule, and it is this dipole-dipole interaction that leads to the attractive forces between various types of molecules, right? Now, we will define all these important points regarding dipole-dipole interactions and further examples and consequences in this today's lecture. It's the 11th class lecture. Remember, there will be certain important points which will be of concern, of importance as far as NEET is concerned, as far as JEE examination is concerned. As far as the weightage of this portion is concerned, not much is being asked in the competitive exams, be it NEET or be it JEE, but as far as CBSE or states exams are concerned, it might be asked, but it's of very important relevance, right? Now, these are also called as Keesom forces. That means dipole-dipole interactions. They are also called as Keesom forces. Why they are called as Keesom forces? In the honor of their discoverer, that is W.H. Keesom. W.H. Keesom, he was a Dutch physicist. And it is this Keesom who discovered these dipole-dipole interactions, and they are alternatively named in his honor as Keesom forces. He discovered them way back in 1912, right? After that, we have the definition of these forces. As far as the definition of these forces is concerned, they are electrostatic in nature. That means we will have attraction between oppositely charged ends of molecules having dipoles, and they are attractive in nature. That means oppositely charged poles of a dipole, of a molecule having a dipole, they attract each other between molecules which possess permanent dipoles. That means the presence of permanent dipole over here is a must. If we take the example, for example, if I have a molecule like HCl, right? If I have a molecule like H2O, right? These are two molecules, HCl and H2O. In case of HCl, we have a single covalent bond between hydrogen and chlorine. Because of the greater electronegativity of chlorine, it drags the electron pair towards itself. As a result, we have the partial displacement of electrons towards what we call chlorine, and hydrogen is having some deficiency of electrons. What as a result of electron deficiency occurs, we have the delta negative over here and delta positive over here. That means this electron pair which is shared between hydrogen and chlorine, it gets shifted towards chlorine. As a result, chlorine gains a partial negative charge and hydrogen gains a partial positive charge. As a result, the molecule as a whole becomes polar. It has a negative pole and it has a positive pole, right? Now, this feature, it's always this dipole, it will be always present there, whether HCl is in liquid state, whether it is in gaseous state. It is the inherent in the molecule. That means because of inherent electronegativity difference between hydrogen and chlorine, this bond will be always polar. That means this is a permanent dipole. And likewise, if we have a water molecule, here we have electronegative oxygen atom at the center of the molecule. It drags both the electron pairs towards itself. As a result, it gains a partial negative charge. The hydrogens which are bonded to it, they gain partial positive charge. What happens? We have the creation of two dipoles over here. Now, this water molecule, whether it's in liquid state, whether it is in gaseous state, or whether it is in solid state in the form of ice, this dipole will be always present there. That means this is a permanent dipole. Before this, as I already told you in the previous lectures, we had instantaneous dipole creation. For example, मैंने आपको बोला था hydrogen molecule, normally it's non-polar in nature. Why it is non-polar in nature? Because of the nature of similar atoms bonded to each other. Since the nature of the atoms is same, so they will share the electron pair equally between the two. As a result, the molecule will be non-polar. However, instantaneous dipole creation creates a positive partial positive and partial negative over here. As a result, this molecule as a whole becomes polar for a fraction of a second. That's why this does not have a permanent dipole. We have instantaneous dipole creation in non-polar molecules, which we have studied in London forces, right? So as now going back to the definition, we said they are electrostatic in nature. Electrostatic means the opposite ends of the molecules, oppositely charged ends of the molecules will be attracted towards each other. The molecule should possess a permanent dipole. It should not be a temporary dipole, as we have discussed in London forces. For example, HCl has a permanent dipole because of the inherent electronegativity difference between the bonded atoms. This is more electronegative, this is less electronegative. As a result, the bond pair will shift towards chlorine, and this bond will have a definite polarity always there, whether irrespective of the state it's having, whether it's having solid state, liquid state, or gaseous state. Now उसके बाद with the molecule as a whole possessing a non-zero dipole moment. That means molecule as a whole, whether it's diatomic, whether it's polyatomic, it should have, first important condition is that the molecule must have a permanent dipole, right? But in addition to the presence of a permanent dipole, molecule as a whole should possess a non-zero dipole moment. Now what we mean by dipole moment, this might be a new term for you. I have defined it in very precisely over here because it's a separate topic that is discussed in other chapters like chemical bonding there, or these what we call bond features. वहाँ पे dipole moment defined है. So we will not discuss it in detail over here, but the preliminary knowledge of dipole moment, it's very important. So the permanent dipole means the molecule must have an electronegativity difference, appreciable electronegativity difference for the creation of a permanent dipole. That means the molecule always should have a polarity in bond. Now what should be the electronegativity difference range for a molecule, for a bond to exhibit what? Polarity. For exhibiting permanent dipole, that means there must be a range of electronegativity difference between the bonded atoms so that the bond must have a permanent dipole, or so that the bond results in the formation of a permanent dipole. Now the electronegativity difference lies in the range of 0.4 to 1.7. That means if it is 0.5, if it is 1.2, if it is 1.3, all those bonds will be polar in nature. And once they are polar, that means they must have a permanent dipole because of the appreciable electronegativity difference, right? So they are electrostatic in nature, they are attractive, the molecules have exhibiting dipole-dipole interactions. They must have what? They must have permanent dipoles, and permanent dipoles are present in those molecules which have an appreciable electronegativity difference. Now what is the range of electronegativity difference for a bond to be polar, for a bond to have, for a bond to exist in the form of a permanent dipole? And the electronegativity difference range is 0.4 to 1.7 on the Pauling scale. Pauling scale is one of the scales of determining or expressing electronegativity difference. Now the new term that's over here, that means it must have a, once the molecule has a permanent dipole, the second important criteria is it's not a sufficient condition. Remember, that means in addition to the presence of a permanent dipole, the molecule as a whole must have a non-zero dipole moment. Now what we mean by dipole moment, it's a measure of degree of polarity of a bond. That means bond की polarity कितनी है, that's called dipole moment. It's a vector quantity. We know scalars and vectors. Scalars are those quantities which have only magnitude, they don't have any specified condition, direction, while as vectors they have a definite direction and magnitude as well. Mathematically, this dipole moment, which is denoted by mu, it's equal to the product of charge which has been developed, partial charge which has been developed across the bonded atoms. Here it's a positive equal, negative charge will be developed over here, into the distance of separation between the two, that's equal to bond length, right? So charge which has been developed on the bonded atoms because of electronegativity difference multiplied by the distance of separation between bonded atoms, that is equal to dipole moment. So it's a measure of polarity. Greater the magnitude of mu, greater will be the dipole moment, and greater will be the permanent dipole present in the molecule, right? It's a vector. Remember, it's a vector. If we have two dipoles oriented in opposite directions, exactly opposite directions, we have two dipoles in a molecule, but they are oriented in exactly opposite directions, then the molecule as a whole has a zero dipole moment, even though the presence of two dipoles is a prevalent condition in the molecule. So this is important criteria. So dipole moment, it's a measure of degree of a polarity of a bond. It's a vector quantity. That means if we have two vectors running in opposite directions exactly at 180 degree angle, the overall polarity of that molecule is zero. So if the overall polarity, then it becomes zero dipole. Then there we have zero dipole, right? Zero dipole moment, and the molecule as a whole will be non-polar, even though it will have the presence of what? Even though it has the presence of what? Permanent dipoles. Now let me take an example over here. For example, if I take two examples, let me take an example. You might be confused. For example, if I have carbon dioxide over here and I have water molecule over here, right? Carbon dioxide is a linear molecule. Oxygen is more electronegative, and this is again more electronegative as compared to the central atom, that is carbon. So it will drag the electron. Dipole. This dipole will be oriented in this direction. That means this dipole moment will be oriented in this direction, and this will be oriented in this direction. That means we have one dipole in exactly opposite direction to the other dipole. Even though the bonds are polar, carbon-oxygen bond will be polar in nature. Oxygen will have a partial negative charge. Carbon will have a partial positive charge. And similar is the case with this oxygen. It will have a partial negative charge. That means one dipole will be oriented in this direction. One dipole will be oriented in this direction. Since the molecule is linear, bond angle is 180 degree. So these dipoles will cancel each other, and the overall polarity, that means mu will be zero. Mu will be zero. We have permanent dipoles in the molecule. Remember this thing, we have the presence of permanent dipoles in the molecule, but their direction is, since it's a vector quantity, their direction is exactly opposite to each other. So overall polarity of the molecule will be zero. Overall dipole moment of the molecule will be zero. That's what I said. Even the presence of permanent dipole is not a sufficient condition. The molecule as a whole should possess a non-zero dipole moment. Here we don't have any difference. There is only present a single dipole. So the dipole itself will create. It does not have an opposite dipole. So whatever the polarity of this bond, it will be the polarity of the entire molecule, right? So as far as the definition, moving back very briefly, very precisely, very shortly on the definition, these are electrostatic in nature. They are attractive. They are present in the molecules which have a permanent dipole. That means electronegativity difference should run in the range of 0.4 to 1.7, and the molecule as a whole should possess a non-zero dipole moment. That means the molecule should not have a zero dipole moment like that of carbon dioxide. We will correlate this carbon dioxide molecule later on with other molecule that has the same mass, but irrespective of same mass, presence of dipoles, the molecules exhibit different physical properties, and that's on account of difference in their intermolecular forces, right? So we have defined dipole moment, measure of degree of polarity. Bond में कितनी polarity है, that's called a dipole moment. It's denoted by mu. It's a vector quantity. That means it has both magnitude and direction. Mathematically, mu is equivalent to charge which has been developed. Obviously, it will be less than the charge of a single electron multiplied by the distance between the bonded atoms, and charge of separation, right? So this is all about historical background, why they are called as Keeson forces. Then we have the definition. Then we have the electronegativity difference for a bond to have a permanent dipole. After that, we have the definition of dipole, which might be a new term if you have not already read it in the previous classes. After this, we will go to illustration using acetaldehyde molecule. After that, we will see the variation of these forces with distance, and finally we will compare this dipole-dipole interactions with that of London forces. So let us first of all illustrate this with the help of acetaldehyde molecule. So hope it is clear whatever I have told over here, right? So let's take the example of acetaldehyde molecule, right? It's an aldehyde. Now, as I have already told you that carbon and hydrogen, they almost have same electronegativity. So the CH bonds, whether they are present in hydrocarbons or any other functional derivatives of hydrocarbons, they are almost non-polar in nature, irrespective of the nature of hydrocarbon. Now, in this we have a carbonyl group over here. This is called carbonyl group. Here we have carbon doubly bonded to oxygen atom. That means carbon is bonded through a sigma bond and it's bonded through a pi bond to that of oxygen, right? So we have two different types of bonds between carbon and oxygen. Since sigma bond is a stronger bond and pi bond is a weaker bond, we already know that. Here we have a head-on overlap, and in case of pi bond we have a side-wise overlap that we will study in this bonding, chemical bonding. So in acetaldehyde molecule we have carbon bonded to oxygen, and in between these two atoms there is an appreciable electronegativity difference, right? Because of the electronegativity difference, this between carbon and oxygen, this bond becomes polar. That means we show this as like this, CH3C double bond OH. Here we have a sigma, delta negative and delta positive. What does it mean? That means these electrons, the bond pair of electrons shift towards oxygen. That means the electron cloud which is present between carbon and oxygen, it gets shifted towards oxygen. As a result, we have the creation of a dipole. Positive partial positive charge on carbon and partial negative charge on oxygen. This much we know. Now we have two types of bonds, as I have already told you that we have two different types of bonds present between carbon and oxygen. Pi bond and sigma bond. Since we know that pi bond is weakly held between the concerned atoms, or it's a weaker bond as compared to that of sigma bond. So the polarity, there will be greater shift of pi electrons from carbon to that of oxygen as compared to sigma bond. So the polarity will be dominated by, so we can say the polarity over here, it will be dominated by pi electron shift. Pi electron displacement rather, it's not shift. Shift will be a disastrous word. Why? Shift means transfer. That means it will be displacement. Pi electrons will be more displaced relative to sigma electrons. Those sigma electrons will also be displaced towards oxygen because of the inherent stronger electronegativity of oxygen. It will drag both the electron pairs towards itself. Since the pi electrons are loosely held, so it will the displacement of pi electrons will be more as compared to that of sigma electrons. So overall we can say that this bond is polar, and in the polarity of this bond, the major contribution goes to pi electron displacement, right? Now this dipole, it's a permanent dipole. Why it's a permanent dipole? Because there is a appreciable electronegativity difference between carbon and oxygen. So whatever the state of acetaldehyde, be it in vapor form or under normal conditions, it's a liquid. Remember this thing. Under normal conditions, it's a liquid, right? So we say it's a liquid, that means there must be some attractive forces between the acetaldehyde molecules. Whatever the nature of this acetaldehyde, if it is in solid state, if it is in liquid state, even if it is in gaseous state, the presence of dipole will always be there. That means we can say it's a permanent dipole. It is a permanent dipole, right? And there is only present in a single molecule, we have the presence of only one dipole. So this will be called as since in the presence in acetaldehyde molecule we have a single dipole, we don't have any opposite dipole. This permanent dipole will be responsible for the overall polarity of the molecule, and dipole moment of this molecule won't be zero because it does not have an opposite dipole having same magnitude and running in opposite direction. So the polarity of this bond will be the polarity of entire molecule, right? So in acetaldehyde, we have a permanent dipole. If we have a large assembly of acetaldehyde molecules, they will attract each other through these dipole-dipole interactions, right? That means delta negative, delta positive, delta positive, delta negative, right? That means this will undergo attraction with this. Similarly, if we have another acetaldehyde molecule, this will have negative, this will have partial positive, it will attract to this. So this attraction and this attraction. That means they are called as dipole-dipole interaction. That means this dipole, it has undergone interaction with this dipole. That means this dipole, it has undergone interaction with this dipole. This dipole has undergone interaction with this dipole. But I have already said that these interactions are electrostatic in nature. That means positive and negative, they attract each other. That means this negative pole of this dipole, it attracts the positive pole of this dipole. Similarly, the negative pole of this molecule attracts the positive end of this dipole of this molecule, and this interaction between the molecules is called dipole-dipole interaction. So if we take the example of acetaldehyde, which is under normal conditions, it's a liquid. So the intermolecular forces which are present among the acetaldehyde molecules in a sample, they are dipole-dipole interactions, right? So these dipole-dipole interactions are responsible for the existence of acetaldehyde as a liquid, right? These acetaldehyde molecules, similarly, if we take, for example, HCl, will it exhibit, if there is a question for you, will it exhibit dipole-dipole interaction? Obviously, yes. How? Because of the electronegativity difference. Over here, we will have a positive end. This will be a dipole, right? Chlorine is more electronegative. It will drag the electrons towards itself. As a result, the bond will be polar. It will have a permanent dipole. Dipole moment will be non-zero over here. Once the dipole moment is non-zero, these molecules will attract each other through dipole-dipole interaction. That means this dipole undergoes interaction with this dipole, and this interaction, that means this attraction between these two molecules, this will be again dipole-dipole interaction. Getting it? So this is the illustration. That means the molecule must possess a permanent dipole. It should have a non-zero dipole moment, and only then it is capable of undergoing dipole-dipole interactions, which is one of the types of van der Waals forces in this. So we have taken up the illustration. Now we will see what about the variation with distance, right? Now how they vary with distance, as we have already discussed in what we call London forces में हमने पढ़ा है, वहाँ पे हमने देखा है कि the attractive energy between the molecules undergoing London forces, it varies inversely with the distance of separation to the power of 6, right? Now these first of all, these dipole-dipole interactions are short range forces. These are short range forces. Short range forces. That means they exert their influence over small distances. ठीक है ना? Right? They exert their, or we can say they operate over small distances. That means if the distance is slightly increased, they vanish. That means they are operative, they exist once the distance between the interacting molecules is small. It's in the picometers, as I already told you, slightly larger than that, slightly larger than that as compared to that of van der Waals forces, because there we have the creation of instantaneous short-lived dipoles. Here we have the existence of permanent dipoles, and this is a very striking feature between the two. So they are short-range forces. What we mean by short-range forces, that means they operate, they exist once the distance between the dipoles is very small, right? Now the variation, there are two types of variations. Remember one thing, if the molecules are static, molecules are stationary. If the molecules are stationary, attractive energy between the interacting molecules, it's inversely proportional to the cube of the distance of separation between the molecules, right? However, if the molecules are rotating, the molecules which have a dipoles, that what are the molecules? Remember, these molecules must have permanent dipoles, right? Permanent dipoles hone chahiye, and further, in addition to the presence of permanent dipoles, they must also have non-zero dipole moment. So if the molecules are stationary, then the attractive energy falls off with the third power of distance, right? Similarly, if the molecules having permanent dipoles or dipole-dipole molecules, dipole-dipole interactions, if they are rotating, then the attractive energy, it falls off with the sixth power of distance between the attracting molecules. That means, what we mean by that, if the molecules are stationary, there will be stronger forces between the opposite ends of the dipoles. If they are rotating, that means if we have a molecule rotating, there will be, this motion will cancel out the proper orientation of opposite poles. That means under those conditions, we have to bring molecules slightly closer to each other in order to have appreciable dipole-dipole interactions. If the molecules are static or they are stationary, then the attractive energy falls off with the third power of distance. That means they exist over large distances. Once the molecules are rotating, that means the rotation, the motion cancels out the attraction between the opposite ends of dipoles. Under those conditions, we have to bring molecules close to each other so that they properly orient with opposite poles of dipoles oriented towards each other, and then the attraction energy will be between them will be appreciable. So for stationary, it's 1/3. Then attraction energy is inversely proportional to the cube of distance of separation between the molecules, and if they are rotating, then it falls off with the sixth power of separation of distance between the molecules, right? And after this, we have the comparison with London forces. Then we have the comparison with London forces, and that will wind up this topic. So comparison with London forces. Comparison with London forces. So if we compare dipole-dipole interactions with London forces, it's obvious, it's quite evident that they are weaker as compared to London forces. Why? Because in London forces, we have a creation of an instantaneous dipole, that too in a non-polar molecule. They are present in non-polar molecules. These are present in polar molecules. There we have an instantaneous dipole. Here we have a permanent dipole. There the attractive energy, in case the molecule is, whether the molecule is stationary or it's rotating, there it falls off with 1/6 of distance between the two, 1/r⁶. Here we have, if the molecules are stationary, then it falls off with the cube of the distance. So in short, we can say that they are stronger forces than London forces. Why? Because in London forces, we have the creation of instantaneous short-lived dipoles, and we don't have any existence of permanent dipole in the molecule, no polarity at all in the molecule. But in these cases, in dipole-dipole interactions, we must have a permanent dipole, electronegativity difference. That means the magnitude of charge on opposite poles will be greater as compared to that of London forces. So they are stronger forces than London forces. Finally, there is a clue for you. For example, now this is a question for you, and it's very important. If we have two molecules like these two, ठीक है ना? We have acetaldehyde and we have carbon dioxide, ठीक है ना? If we have molecular mass of carbon dioxide, it will be 44U, and if we have molecular mass of acetaldehyde, again it's 44U, right? So their molecular mass is same. यहाँ पे we have carbon dioxide, it has two dipoles. अभी मैंने बोला आपको two dipoles. यहाँ पे we have one dipole, right? So expectedly, we should say that dipole-dipole interactions in case of carbon dioxide molecules will be stronger as compared to that of acetaldehyde molecules, and it should exist in a more condensed phase or more condensed state as compared to that of acetaldehyde. So under normal conditions, it's a gas. Under normal conditions, it's a liquid. वही मैंने आपको बोला, it is having permanent dipoles, two permanent dipoles. This is having one permanent dipole, right? So looking at the number of permanent dipoles, this should be more polar, this should be less polar. The intermolecular forces of attraction should be much stronger than the over here as compared to this. So if we have two as liquids, it should be more viscous, having stronger intermolecular forces, should be less viscous. But to our surprise, we have this as a gas and this as a liquid. Why? अभी मैंने बोला आपको, it has two dipoles oriented in opposite directions. overall dipole moment is 0, and it has a non-zero dipole moment because it has a one permanent dipole, and the overall polarity of that molecule will be the polarity of this molecule. That means dipole moment will be non-zero, and hence this acetaldehyde molecule, even though they have the same mass, this exists as a liquid because the intermolecular forces, dipole-dipole interactions are very much stronger over here. Here we don't have any dipole-dipole interactions because overall polarity of the molecule is 0, overall dipole moment of the molecule is 0, and hence it is non-polar in nature. So if we liquefy carbon dioxide from gaseous state to liquid state, मैंने बोला आपको, if we liquefy helium or noble gases, the intermolecular forces that come into existence upon liquefaction, those are London forces. Similarly, since the molecule carbon dioxide is non-polar, if we liquefy it from gaseous state to liquid state, once it comes into the form of a liquid state, the only forces that are present between the molecules, they will be London forces or van der Waals type of London forces, right? Overall, now I think this is more than enough for today's lecture. Tomorrow we will study dipole and induced dipole interactions, and after that we will move to hydrogen bonding. Winding these intermolecular forces, they are not of much relevance, but they are very much significant in various spheres. Then after that we have most important lectures, that is gas laws, ideal gas equation, and then van der Waals equation. So they are important. So this is more than enough for today. Thank you. Goodbye. Khuda Hafiz.